Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing an advanced Dungeons and Dragons advice video about younger players. This is an extremely important video. If you're a dungeon master or if you run any kind of a tabletop role-playing game, you need to pay attention to this video. This is important. Before I get into it though, if you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you would hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on social media, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find a link to the site in the description of this video. You can find all of my books there. I like to think I write good stories that make you think. I wrote a 3-book science fiction Western series called Drifters. I wrote a fun story about a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out. It's called The House Off Farrago Road. I wrote a political fantasy called The Righteous President. And I wrote it's got 2 now. I'm working on the 3rd one. The first one is Vanguard 1. The second one is Task Force Terminus. Like I said, I'm working on the 3rd one. It's a space warfare science fiction type thing in the future. It's essentially a study of humanity from an alien perspective. The first one is Vanguard 1. The second one is Task Force Terminus. And I'm working on the 3rd one. Hope you get them. Hope you like them. Anyway, younger players. This advice works for every tabletop role-playing game, not just Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. In any game you run, there's going to be younger people, aged 10 to 16, who want to play. Actually, I should say 10 to 18, who want to play. This is normal and is to be expected. If you're running a fun game, they will want to play. It's the nature of the beast. Somebody's little brother or little sister wants to play because it's fun. You know, they want to play. A number of quick tips. First, make sure you have their parents' permission. The older brother or the older sister ain't going to get it done. You got to have the parents' permission. Talk to them in person yourself. Show them the game materials and explain your game to them. Tell them about your villain and the monsters the player characters will face. Most parents will be okay with it, but some may object. The parents or guardians are the ultimate decision makers. If they say no, then the kid cannot play, period. I've had people lie to me over the years, over the phone, so you got to talk to them in person. If the kid persists, tell them the parents are the ones in charge and they said no. Some kids will beg and plead, but you must be firm. Some kids will lie and say the parent or guardian changed their mind. Check with the parents. Some kids will want to play so bad they will want you to go behind the parents' back. This is a huge, huge red flag. You should never, ever, ever do this. If you do, you are not only being a piece of shit, but you are also breaking the law. Do not do it. I don't care if you think the parents don't understand what the game's about, or if you think they're being stupid. The parents are the guardians of that child. Do not ever go behind their back. Okay? When you have younger players, 10 to 18, keep the game PG. Omit anything that could remotely be considered sexual in any way. Violence towards monsters and other bad guys is okay, but don't let it get too graphic. Try to keep it lighthearted and not too serious. You literally have to change. Sometimes you'll have to change the way you run your game for these younger players. Number 3, the younger children will disrupt your game. They are children. If they are boys, there will be fart jokes, cartoon references, and silly bullshit. If the child is female, there will be references to Disney princesses, cutesy little pop culture references, and they will want to run fairy tale creatures. They may even want to run like a fairy or a dragon or something. Just be aware. This will happen with younger children. Preteen males will want to make the game sexual. Nip that in the bud quickly. Preteen females will try to act sexual, and they may try to flirt with other players. Nip that in the bud quickly as well. Remember, preteens are exploring their limits. Do not let them do this in your game. If you do, you are begging for trouble. Any of your adult players who indulge preteens or teens in anything sexual in-game are pedophiles, and you need to kick them out of your gaming group. They are trouble, and you do not want them around you or your game. Period. I hate to have to include that part in there, but if an adult is flirting or doing anything sexual in the game with somebody who's not 18, yeah, you got to get them out of your group. You've got to get them out of your group. You're begging for trouble. That's all there is to it. And we're talking legal ramifications. The parents could really, I mean, they deserve to go to jail. That's what I'm saying. Any child who does not do any of this is a credit to the species and will become exceptional adults. They will go far. But such kids are rare. Disruptions of this kind are to be expected in tabletop role-playing games when it comes to kids. When the role-playing situations come up and they want to do silly stuff, cool. Just make sure the consequences match their frivolity. If they're doing the funny cartoon stuff in the tavern and they end up messing with a local, the local may kick the crap out of them. Just make the consequences match what they do. There has to be an equal consequence. But remember, the game is supposed to be fun. So let them do it. If it's not a combat situation, let them do it. If they try the silly, frivolous stuff in combat, they need to pay a price. Combat is the serious aspect of the game. If they are doing nonsensical, silly stuff while someone is trying to kill their player character, chances are their player character will be hurt and may be killed. And what's worse, if they are acting a fool while the group is tackling a powerful monster or villain, they may very well get other player characters killed. The gaming group as a whole should discourage that. Again, if it's non-combat, it's fine. Just make the consequences match what they're doing. If it is combat, that should not be going on during combat. As the dungeon master, it falls on you to do 3 things. A, play the monsters and villains appropriately. Do not change the bad guys to fit the kids' player characters. The kids have to alter their play when facing the villains. If the children's player characters die, they die. Period. It's a hard lesson to learn, but they have to learn that lesson. B, take the kids aside either after the game or during a break and explain to them that during combat, such behavior might get them killed. Instead, their player characters need to try and be a productive member of the group. Hurt the bad guys, help the good guys, do something productive. If they want to do something silly to distract the bad guys for a good reason, that's cool. Just make sure they understand the risks. And as a distraction, some of that stuff might be good. You never know. I can imagine a very powerful villain who's used to serious people coming up against him, and then somebody running over and doing some silly stuff over here. That might be a distraction. Okay? You got to understand the difference, and you got to be able to recognize that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't make the monsters be distracted to cover for the children's player characters. But if they do it specifically to distract them, then that's fine. Okay? Just make sure they understand the risks. You have to know the limits of your players and what they are willing to put up with. Most adults have lives. They make time to go to your game, and diversions from their daily busy routine, their lives, most diversions from their lives are the reason they come. They're not there. They're there to have fun, and they want to get stuff accomplished. Most adults work hard all week, and it is possible that your game sessions are their only break. If that is the case, they may not want to suffer through cartoonish jokes and preteen fantasies. If they invest time in your game, chances are they will not enjoy losing their player character because little Timmy wants to reenact something he saw with the Roadrunner and Coyote. As the Dungeon Master, it is up to you to quash the disruption. Remember, be gentle because the kid is new to this and probably does not understand the ramifications of his actions. You do not want to discourage the kid from playing and having fun. But you need to impress upon them the seriousness of the combat. Silly stuff outside of combat is fun. In combat, it can be disastrous. Number 4, kids will want to fight each other in game. They'll compare characters. They'll say, well, my character can do this. Your character can't. Yeah, but my character can do this. My character has a higher strength, blah, 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 blah. As the dungeon master, you should discourage this as well, especially when they start trying to fight each other. Explain to them that if they fight amongst themselves, the bad guys are going to laugh over their graves. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and most role-playing games are team games. Everyone plays a part and everyone needs to be relied upon to help the group. There is generally a shared goal and their purpose is to help achieve that goal. They can't do that if they're killing each other. If they insist on infighting, then the bad guys should have an easy time killing them off. If the group suffers for it, I'm sure the other players will voice their disapproval and may very well have words with the kids. So be it. Just don't let the adults berate or abuse the kids. There's a difference there. I had one player at one point look over at a 16-year-old boy who made a mistake. It wasn't even a big deal, but it made a mistake. The kid made a mistake. And he looked over and says, look, I'm not here to babysit you. If you're going to play, play. That was quite rude. I had words with that player over that. So just, don't let the adults berate or abuse the children. If they want to explain to the kid, look, we could have really used your help, but instead you were off doing this, or you were fighting your friend over there, or whatever, another player character, that's fine. But remember, we want to correct, not criticize. If the parents let their kids play in your game, you are responsible for their well-being. This is number 5. If the parents let the kids play in your game, you are responsible for their well-being. This means you need to protect them from abusive players. Sometimes an adult will become frustrated or angry. Do not let them go after the kids. Understand that if the adult lost a player character they've been working on and developing for a long time, it can be frustrating. But do not, under any circumstances, let them berate or abuse the child. Everyone is there to have fun, and it's your responsibility as the dungeon master to mediate the situation. Take the kid aside and explain what they did and why the adult is upset. Then take the adult aside and explain that the kid doesn't understand and it's a learning experience for them. Sometimes the adult just needs to be an adult. I had a situation several years, more than a decade ago. There was a situation where there was 5 players. 2 of them were kids. And they were fighting amongst themselves, literally going at each other with weapons. One fighter and one barbarian. I'm stronger than you. No, I'm faster than you. Blah, 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 And they were determining which character was the alpha male, apparently, among the group. I don't know. But during the course of that time, the adult players had unlocked a door in the dungeon. And they insisted on continuing and ignoring the kids. Well, the problem was the bad guy in the group, or the bad guy that was behind that door, I should say, was set for a 5-character team to attack. Together they could have beaten him, but the 3 were no match. The 3 adults by themselves were no match. So 2 of them died. Yeah, that was not good. The 2 players whose characters died blamed the children, and rightly so. The problem was they began to get abusive, and I had to separate the group and call the game for the night. I took the adults aside and I explained what the situation was, and they were allowed. I let them make up characters very, very similar to the 2 that died, and they were okay with it because they were allowed a lot of the same magic items and things like that because it really wasn't their fault. You see what I'm saying? Later on, when I was giving the two kids the ride home, I explained to them what they did wrong. After that, their play changed and everything was better. It was a bad situation. It should never have happened, but the kids made up for it later. You see what I'm saying? And after that, the group was fine. Sometimes if you see an event like that happening, as soon as the door opens, you say, okay, stop right there. We're going to stop right now. We're gonna stop the game. We're gonna take a break, and then you pull the kids aside and you explain what's going on. That's probably what I should have done. Explain to the kids what's going on. The bad guy's here. I adjusted his power level for 5 players. Those 3 guys are going to die. Something bad is going to happen to those 3 if you don't stop fighting amongst yourselves and help the group. Something like that. Remember, be constructive. Be kind because they were new to the game. These kids are new to the game, and we want quality players. Okay. After that, they come back. Then you continue the game. If they continue to do it, then that's on them. You can't do much about it. You got to pick up the pieces afterwards, like I did in the first part of that. But sometimes you just have to do that. You have to stop the game and do what you do. As far as the adults, it's a game and you're there to have fun. But it should be, an adult should take a death of a character in stride. Problem is, if you make a character and you play that character for months or even years, and you build this character up to be exactly what you want it to be, and then it dies because somebody else is screwing around, yeah, that's infuriating. That is absolutely frustrating, and I get that. Just be aware, okay? Be aware of the situation. First level characters that die aren't that big a deal. 15th level characters, yeah, somebody might get upset, especially if they worked him from 1st to 15th. So, the sad part is that I've seen entire gaming groups dissolve because the dungeon master caters to the kids in the group and the adults don't want to play in a cartoonish game, so they leave. Then the kids lose interest and they leave also. That happens a lot. I've also seen good players leave the game because the dungeon master didn't mediate the situation well. I also have a good friend who did nothing wrong, yet he faced legal problems because some teenager in the game flirted with him and got mad when he refused her advances. She made up lies about him. I hate to include that in this, but that happens. Okay? Having new players in the group is wonderful. If they are not adults, all kinds of issues surface. As a dungeon master, it is your responsibility to bring new players into the game. You must nurture them and develop them and do everything you can to give them every opportunity to become talented and capable players and eventually dungeon masters in their own right. Adults, in this situation, adults are difficult. Children are 1,000 times as hard. But if you can guide them and develop them, as I said, they can become some of the best players you will ever have. There is nothing more precious than a child's imagination. That is a fact. It's just, Yoda had it right. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Many become some of the best dungeon masters you will ever see. I have had the privilege more than once, and let me tell you, it is definitely worth it. I have mentored children in the game on numerous occasions. At least 5 have become some of the best dungeon masters I know, and it is a rewarding situation, let me tell you. Definitely worth it. Just make sure the kids don't ruin your game for the other players. That's a big deal. That's like sacrificing the entire battleship to gain a few skiffs. It is not worth it. And that's a bad analogy, I know, but my point being, if you can If you have a kid in the game, it's not so bad. When you have more than one kid in the game, they tend to be kids, you know, and you have to adjust the play accordingly. Having kids in the game, it can be extremely rewarding, but you got to be careful. You got to be careful. And the stuff I said about the adult and child interaction, be very, very careful about that, because that can turn into legal ramifications for you. You got to make sure the adult, if anything, invite the adult to play. The parent, invite the parent to play. That's one of the best ways. If they're sitting in the game and the kid's there, the kid's not going to act up. And by the same token, you get a good player out of it. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, having kids in the game is a great thing, but it can also be a bad thing. You just got to be careful how you do it. It's up to you to handle it properly as the dungeon master. So, anyway, I hope this helps. I really, really hope this helps. And if there's anything else, any other questions you have, put them in the comments, and I'll be glad to read them. I'll try to answer them as best I can. Even if you disagree with me, put it in the comments, okay? It's important to have various viewpoints. Hope this finds everybody well. You folks have a good one. God bless one and all. There is a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out. When the police detective, who happens to be a skinwalker squirrel, uncovers a plot by a paranormal perpetrator, he has to enlist the aid of his fellow housemates. If you enjoy a modern, quirky take on historical mythology, check out my new original novel, The House Off Farrago Road.